How are you nervous talking to me? I should be nervous talking to you.
You just don't, I don't know why.
We're about to go live with Reggie Jackson of the LA Clippers, the NBA star.
Hey, how you doing?
And here we go. Hey, Reggie, how are you? When you were 25, so 5 years ago in 2015, you signed an $80 million contract for 5 years to play with the Detroit Pistons.
Long gunning. Got it as time runs out. What a night for Reggie Jackson.
That is freaking amazing for a 25-year-old. How did you feel? What was going through your head? Did you see yourself as a kid, as a teenager, getting to where you got?
I just always knew I wanted to play basketball, so I think I did a great amount of daydreaming and time spending really putting myself in the shoes of being in the NBA and just trying to experience every feeling of it and make sure every game that I played, whether it was on the backcourt or outside,
Right.
always trying to envision those before me and just did my best to try to mentally make up the idea of getting to the NBA. And then everything else kind of just followed. I continued to work very hard, but once I kind of seen it in my mind and it was very tangible and I could feel it, it was a journey that became easier to go down.
Now, how did you discover the six phase?
We had a trainer named Arnie Kander, who's kind of a legend for the organization, and that was at a point like I knew I couldn't work physically, like when I kept being hurt, but I wanted to get better, and he kept asking me like mental things, like challenge my mental, like how am I getting better, what are the little things I do, and the more that he kept asking me, and the more I kept kind of just challenging myself and thinking about it, I just kept practicing and kind of kept going down the rabbit hole and going further and further, and it's just been working.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm curious, when you do phase 4 in the sixth phase where you're visualizing your future, what are some of the things that you visualize?
One thing is actually kind of happened is when I started, envisioned playing with one of my best friends in the NBA, which is Paul George. Didn't know how it was going to happen, didn't know what jerseys we were going to wear, but now we're playing together here for the Clippers, so.
Amazing. That's crazy. Have you done any other Mindvalley programs other than the sixth phase?
I did the sixth phase and I did the reading, speed reading. It all ties together. Like it's interesting. Like meditating and the speed reading to me was like when I had to sit back and reflect. I was like, this one simple thing that like we learn, we forget. It was like maps. How you're talking like mind mapping.
Right. How much has your reading speed gone up after Jim Quick's course?
Oh, it was crazy. I went from like 150 to, I think I doubled it.
150 to 300 words per minute.
Yeah. But the best thing wasn't, I feel like when I watched other people, the reading is great that it went up. Like the speed was amazing. It was the ability to comprehend. And like you said,
right.
I got my license at 16. I lived in Colorado. And my brother was in Florida at the time. And he needed a car. And I remember as soon as we got the license, like my dad was like, all right, we're going on a road trip. We're taking your brother's car. And he was older. And I was like, oh, crap, like this is going to suck. But the first thing he showed me was the map of how we were going to get there. And like he stayed up mostly through the nights, but I remember one night he kind of fell asleep and we were driving through the South and like going, I think we were like in Arkansas, and I felt confident because I had already seen the map. I was already led to my destination rather than like
love that
approach the answers. So I think that was like my meditation, how I start my day, how I think about meditation, how I think about the game that I play now is like it's all the same game. It's the more I can map it out and the more I can shape it.
Wow.
The more I can put in my thoughts. Like, yeah, my thoughts are the vision. So the more I can make the map, the easier it is to get to my final destination. Like you might go off detour a little bit, but you can ultimately get to where you want to be.
Reggie, man, okay, that's a beautiful metaphor. If you ever do a TED Talk, okay, that's your TED Talk. This metaphor of the map, that is your TED Talk. That's a powerful idea. I read about how you had tendonitis, right? And you had to have PRP injections in your knee. Now that really resonated with me because I have tendonitis and I've had PRP injections in my knee as well. So when I read that, I'm like, wow, we've gone through the same thing. I'm curious, how did you rebound from that? What was the mental frame?
Kind of just sitting, learning to sit still.
Mm-hmm.
Learning to sit still and understand that everything happens for a reason and stop fighting the process. I think that was a big thing. I kept fighting the process and I was injuring myself more than understanding, all right, my body's trying to tell me I'm hurt. It's sending me signals that something needs to be done. Trust that I have a great team to diagnose and figure out, and then just rest. I had to learn to sit still and just know that I'm getting better. I think that's a hard thing even with meditation is like for people to sit still and be like, can I get better just sitting still? That's one of the hardest things they had to learn for me. And I had to change my perception on what meditation was. Like I worked on a lot. I've had psychological coaches over the years, and it's really helped. But my first perception was I have to be moving to get better. So like I have to lift on my leg. My knee is suffering the problem, but it's not necessarily the problem. It's everything else around it, whether it was like my IT band, people don't understand, like could be too tight, your calves, ankles on the other side. So funny, when I sat still, I felt more knots, like, and felt more pain elsewhere than where I actually had the shot. So the more I just listened to my body, I came up with the right questions to ask. I feel like my physical therapist. So I'd go up and be like, for some reason my quad doesn't feel right. Like it's just hurting. Then we'd do more work on that and we'd strengthen it. And then I was like, my calves are hurting. So when they walked me through like the framework of the body, it was interesting that finally when I sat down and like I said, I sat down and sat still and I wrote out my thoughts and like how I'm feeling throughout the day. I had many of the answers. I was given many of the signals to ask the right questions to give to the right people to actually cure the problem rather than just thinking it was going to be a quick solve.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of people think you heal yourself with your mind, but that's not always the case. What often happens is your mind guides you to the right healers, new therapies, medical professionals. And yes, your mind does have a healing effect on the body, but there's also a compass mechanism. It's intuition, right? And when you have the right intention, you're in the right state, you get guided towards the right healers.
It's easy for me to be more content where I'm at now. I used to feel like I searched for so many answers. I think I used to ask the wrong questions. And the more I've gotten to understand, like I said, practicing compassion, knowing that we're all one, we're all different, but we're all the same. And the more I understood that and realized we all come from, like I said, the same place. We all got higher being. We all have a purpose here. It makes it easier. Like all I have to do is ask for it. And if I ask for clarity, there's like certain things I take care of each other day. And if I ask with clarity and make the right map, then the answers will be given to me. Because
amazing.
It's all here for us to receive. That's the beauty is all our blessings have already been created and they're here for us to receive. It's just finding the right way to ask for them to receive it.